Hello,
Hi,
everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us on this beautiful day. I want to wish you all a huge, big, warm welcome from myself and Belinda and Shaun here. Also welcome to those who are tuning into the replay as well. I know we've got people tuning in from all over the world, so it's all very exciting. So if you haven't met me, my name is Kristin Reeves, and I'm going to be your host for today. So a little bit about me, I'm 29 and I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. I absolutely love the outdoors, love travel, living an adventurous, active lifestyle, and I love getting out and being in nature. So by trade, I'm an environmental engineer, but over the past 4 years, my passion for health and my love for people has led me to biohacking. So what is biohacking? Well, it's all about tweaking your lifestyle and basically like optimizing the inputs into your body with the ultimate goal of maximizing your health span and your lifespan so that you can live a long, healthy, happy life. So on today's webinar, I'm super excited. I'm being joined by two incredible women. They're both medical professionals, both biohackers. And today we're going to be talking about activation versus supplementation and what it can do for your health. So I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get straight into it. So I would love to introduce to you guys our first guest. So her name is Dr. Shaun Mckee. She's just said she's coming to us from out of an RV in Kansas at the moment, which is amazing. So a little bit about her. She is a beautiful lady, just, an outstanding woman, very high caliber person. She is a board certified neuroradiologist, a loving wife. She's married to a gastroenterologist. She's a mum of 2 sons who are both in college. And she's actually an athlete as well. So she's a 2-time 140.6 mile Ironman triathlete. And she's qualified for the World Championships as well. Like, let alone doing it once, but twice. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. If that's not enough, she's also served as the Chief of Neuroradiology in the Air Force. And she's also competed in dozens of marathons and several ultra marathons throughout her medical career. So needless to say, she's incredible and I'm so excited and I'm really honored to be here introducing her to you guys today. So a huge warm welcome, Shaun. Thanks for joining us. And can you please—
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Can you please kick us off by telling us a little bit about your background, how you came to be a neuroradiologist and actually what a neuroradiologist does?
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for that warm welcome. I really, really appreciate it. So in medical school, we would always go down when we were doing our rounds. We would go to see the patient. We would find out what was wrong, what was the problem that the patient was concerned with, why she went to the hospital, what her laboratory values were, or him. And just we would talk about things that we thought were going wrong with the patient. And then we would go down to the basement, which is where the X-ray department was, or the radiology department. And we would do radiology rounds. And that's where we would speak with the radiologist who had seen the images that the patient had done. And we would talk to them about all of the things we discovered while we were talking to the patient. And then the radiologist would show us what the images showed, and that would lead us to more of finding a differential diagnosis. And pretty much usually the radiologist was the person that kind of gave us the answers with the patients. And I was just fascinated with the brain. And one of the rotations that I did was with a neuroradiologist in medical school, and the complexity of the brain, the intricacies, the things that it could control in such an elegant manner really made me fascinated with it. And so when I decided that I wanted to specialize, you have a choice of pediatric radiology, interventional radiology, musculoskeletal. The brain just drew me in, and I was very, very happy and excited to choose neuroradiology as my specialty and have loved it ever since.
That is awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm also fascinated with the brain. It's such an incredible tool. And the more I learn about it, it just blows me away.
I know.
Dr. Shaun, can I ask you, what is the difference between activation and supplementation?
Well, the easiest way to think about supplementation is that you're replacing something that is missing in your body. If you have low magnesium levels, then of course you supplement with magnesium supplements to balance out your magnesium levels. If you're low in vitamin D3, you supplement with D3. Vitamin A, vitamin C, those things are supplements that we add to our diet in order to build up potential deficiency, a nutritional deficiency. Whereas activation specifically pertains to turning on genetic switches that cause the coding of certain proteins from our DNA. So our RNA will go in and bind to an area of our DNA and will code for a specific protein or enzyme. And it only does so when it's activated, when those particular genes are available to be turned on. And so activation is really speaking about epigenetics, which is the signal that our genome abides by, whether to code for a protein or to be silenced. And so it's pertaining to genetic pathways or molecular switches in our body. Things that will activate are technically called supplements because, well, there are some that activate that are drugs, but we're really, my passion is really the natural path and not non-drug ways to activate.
It's so interesting. Like I just learning about this and the way technology is progressing and how, back in the day, it's all just like, take your vitamin C and you'll be right. But now we can actually do these genetic tests and find out about our own bodies and, what we need to do to flip the different switches. And oh my gosh, I love learning about it. I just love hearing from you. So thank you for sharing. So as a doctor, you must have been approached by lots of people wanting you to check out their products and take a look. So why did you decide to partner with LifeVantage and, share their products with people?
Well, it's really interesting. I have been, you're right. I've been approached by many nutritional supplement people, juice companies, whether they're whole food supplements or vitamin supplements. And I've never really been that impressed with them. And in fact, one of the people that I worked with in one of my businesses that I was affiliated with, which was a health and wellness center, had tried to tell me about activation and natural nutrigenomics and epigenetics. And at the time, I was seeing a doctor, a holistic medical professional that, hold on just a second, please. Sorry. So at the time I was seeing a medical practitioner who was into natural medicine, and she had put me on all of the supplements, all the best supplements, hormone replacement and all the best vitamin supplements. So I was literally taking almost 30 pills a day. And when my coworker, my colleague had tried to tell me about this, I was like, I don't want to hear about it because, I'm already taking all the best supplements. And so the funny thing was that I actually went back to see my doctor after 6 months for a follow-up because she wanted to see how my body was dealing with the supplementation, whether the supplementation was repairing or rebalancing the deficiencies that I had in my magnesium levels, my D3 levels, my magnesium levels. And at that time, she literally said to me, there is one thing that is proven to reduce something called oxidative stress by almost half in 30 days. And everyone who takes it, and they have real peer-reviewed published studies done by major medical schools. And I was blown away. And then she told me the name of it, and she said the name, and I'm like, wait a minute, my friend was telling me about this. And I was literally like, I don't want to hear about it. I'm already taking all the best supplements. So it really just was me hearing from a person that I trust in my doctor, and hearing that it had, real peer-reviewed published studies done by major medical schools, third party, non-paid for by the company. And that the company, that makes it was a publicly traded biotech company. So I felt an additional layer of, validation or credibility that it was a publicly traded company. So there were, checks and balances and transparency in terms of, how the company does things. And, you just don't want to put something into your body or recommend that other people put it into their body. And if you don't know that the company that is producing it is, a real company and going to be here today and gone tomorrow. So really it was the trust in my physician, the trust in the science, going to PubMed, which is kind of the Google for doctors, where doctors go to research, to study the research or to look at the research that's been done on supplements or drugs. And so when she told me about it, I was all in. I was going to take it forever and give it to everybody that I cared about.
That is awesome. It's definitely, it's one thing someone coming and telling you something about, products and things, but coming from a trusted source, like someone that you know and you love, it just, it means a lot more, I think. So are you able to give us a quick rundown on the LifeVantage activators and what they do for your health? I know that you mentioned, proven to reduce oxidative stress. Could you just, go into a little bit more in depth and give us a bit more of an explanation on that and the activators, please?
Sure. Well, so when I found out about it, my doctor told me about it. There was only one activator, and that was the pathway called NRF2, and that's a whole bunch of words that are squished together in an acronym. Sounds like the Nerf football that kids play with, but that particular pathway, when turned on, activates the production, the DNA transcription of several key enzymes that are critical for, cellular protection. The pathway has been called, the master regulator of the body's cytoprotective response or cellular protection. It turns on genes for proteins like or tripeptides called superoxide dismutase, or glutathione, hemoxygenase. Doesn't matter the names. There are just hundreds and hundreds of proteins and enzymes that monitor and respond to stress. So they are heat shock proteins, housekeeping proteins, repair, antioxidant proteins, anti-inflammatory proteins. And also, not only does this NRF2 activation upregulate the production of those proteins, but it downregulates proteins that are responsible for inflammation and fibrosis, which is huge. So when you have more of the good guys and fewer of the bad guys, your body can work better. It's dealing with less inflammation, less oxidative stress, because oxidative stress is really the upstream cause, or the upstream cause of inflammation. And so the downstream effects of inflammation can cause all kinds of issues with improper structure and function of the body. So if you remove the upstream cause of it, excessive oxidative stress, the downstream effects can be improved, and people tend to notice that they're sleeping better, have more energy, less brain fog, better mood, better concentration, all kinds of benefits from a health and wellness standpoint. The other thing that excessive oxidative stress can cause, in addition to just unhealthy cells, is unhealthy organelles, which organelles are little tiny micro organs, or that's why they call it organelles. They're inside the cell. And the main one that I'm speaking of is mitochondria. And mitochondria are responsible for in excess of 95% of the cell's energy to think, energy to digest, energy to produce hormones, energy to contract muscles, energy to think. And so the brain has the most mitochondria of all organs other than the woman's ovary. The heart has, and the eyes, of course, are right up there with the brain. The heart and skeletal muscles have the next level of mitochondria, and then all the rest of the organs. So say, for example, the brain has 10,000 mitochondria when it's young and healthy, and the heart has 1,000. Well, oxidative stress is not only damaging cellular membranes and proteins and DNA, which is bad, it's also damaging the mitochondria. So now the mitochondria that are damaged are producing less energy because they're damaged. They're not functioning as well. They're also producing more exhaust, or cellular trash, or just free radicals is the scientific term for it. So they're producing less energy and more free radicals. Ultimately, when they're damaged to enough of a degree, they self-destruct. So now you have less energy, more free radicals, and fewer of the energy factories. So now a brain that's supposed to have 10,000 mitochondria per cell may have 8,000 or 7,000. And so no wonder you're tired and foggy, as you get older. You're producing more and more free radical damage, more and more trash, more and more cellular debris, and less of that clean energy. And so things start to go haywire. So one of the pathways that's kind of the overseer of mitochondrial repair and mitochondrial biogenesis is called NRF1. And when that's activated or turned on, then we start making new healthy mitochondria that replace those mitochondria that self-destructed. It also helps, along with NRF2, also helps repair the mitochondrial damage, so that a mitochondrion that's producing more free radicals and less energy can start to produce more energy and less free radicals if it's not hit that critical point where it's going to be destroyed. So we're salvaging the mitochondria that are not seriously damaged enough to be destroyed, and we're replacing those that have been destroyed. That's the NRF1 pathway. And the third pathway that we recently kind of unlocked the key to is the NAD and sirtuin pathway. And NAD is referring to a molecule that is one of the most common molecules in our body. It's the key to producing energy in the mitochondria and in the cell in general. It's key to production of ATP. It is not only that, it is the fuel for a set of proteins in our body that really kind of oversee what and where the enzymes and proteins that we've been talking about do and where they go. So superoxide dismutase is an enzyme that's turned on by the NRF2 pathway. Now, the SOD is there, but the NAD molecule and the sirtuin proteins actually say to that enzyme, okay, we need you over here. They also will respond to any time when we have DNA damage, DNA single strand breaks, DNA double strand breaks. Those sirtuin proteins will go to the area of DNA damage and repair it, along with another enzyme called PARP. So those three together are really orchestrating cellular health and wellness. And what's amazing and really intuitive, actually, when you think about it, is that when you take and activate all three together, there's an exponential increase in each of their effectiveness, almost 1,800% more effective when you've turned on all three of the pathways versus just one at a time.
Wow, I could listen to you all day. Like, it's so interesting and just fascinates me and blows my mind. But I want to ask you, is there, in your opinion, is there anyone that these products may not be suitable for?
Well, anytime someone has a medical condition, I always encourage them to have a discussion with their physician whether reducing oxidative stress would be a good idea given that what they have. And generally, having excessive oxidative stress is problematic for optimal health and wellness. So generally speaking, that's going to be okay with most physicians who are knowledgeable about oxidative stress. However, whenever someone is undergoing treatment for conditions where you may want to temporarily increase oxidative stress to kind of kill off unwanted tissues or unwanted growth, then maybe, you want to just have a discussion. And some doctors will encourage their patients to hold off until they undergo whatever treatment the doctor has on in mind. And some doctors are like, nope, we're going to support the body. We're going to treat the bad thing, and we're going to support the part of you that's healthy and make that healthier. So it's just a decision for the patient and the doctor to have our discussion.
Awesome. Thank you for clearing that up. And also, what about children? I know, we don't have studies on kids and things, but I have had people ask me, like, do you think that there's NRF2, the protective pathway, would be suitable for a child? Do you have any comments on that?
Absolutely. Children in general have more active NRF2, and they have more of the NAD, and they have, more mitochondria. It's a kind of a cumulative effect of the damage that occurs. So, and it actually happens in combination with the coincidental decrease in activity of each of these enzymes. So as we get older, from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30, we're making fewer and fewer of those good guys, at the same time as we are being exposed to more and more of the toxicity and the damaging effects of, GMOs and pesticides and radiation and those kind of things. So a healthy child will have adequate production of the good guys, have adequate levels of NAD, have low levels of oxidative stress. However, in today's world, our children are being exposed to more and more of these unpleasant, untoward, non-ideal, damaging chemicals and whatnot. So I think that many of you will agree that today's kids are not as healthy as, obviously, once we've gotten sanitation out of the way. Once, modern children 20, 30 years ago, I think, had fewer of the conditions that modern children today have to deal with. And those conditions are often related to excessive levels of oxidative stress. So I think in today's world, most children will benefit from additional support of NRF2 activation and making more of the good guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I love all your information. It's really, I can see the comments blowing up here. Wow, that's so helpful. I love your information. Is this recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, so don't worry. So thank you for that. Now I want to please don't go anywhere. I just want to ask you a few more questions toward the end, but I'd love to switch gears and introduce our second guest today. So her name is Belinda Wicks. She's a loving wife and mum of two. She's based up in Mckee. She's got two kids, Delilah, who will be 11 in a few days, Hamish, who's 8.5. So Belinda, she's a functional nutritional therapist with over 15 years experience. She's focused on restoring cellular health, assisting clients with digestive issues, detoxification problems, and neuroendocrine imbalances. So we have another super smart cookie joining us today, and very grateful. So welcome, Belinda, and thank you for joining us. Could you please unmute yourself and take a few minutes to share with us a bit about your background and your experience with activation?
Cheers. Thank you so much, Kristin. I just love listening to Dr. Shaun speak. I was even learning more as well, so it was awesome. I'm really loving this call so far. I just want to clarify, I don't have 15 years experience with nutritional therapy. I have 15 years experience with medical laboratory science. So before I found my passion for nutrition, I actually studied medical laboratory science and worked in both private and public health, and really found my passion in nutrition when I had children. And I realized what I was putting into my daughter's mouth was affecting her behavior. So I really started on this journey with diet, and I realized at some point that diet wasn't enough, and big science geek inside of me really wanted to work out how I could manipulate her biochemistry. I know that sounds really bad, but I wanted to manipulate her biochemistry so that I could get her body to function as optimally as it possibly could. And I knew that nutrients drive reactions in the body, and I thought, right, I need to be specific and targeted with the nutritional therapy. And I had some really great practitioners that were surrounding me that helped me to do that. And I loved that so much that I went on to do more study so that I could help other people do that as well. In recovering the health of my children, working almost full time, and really just running a household, being a busy mum, and also helping my husband run his business. I was doing all the bookwork for his business. I burnt my candle out, and I literally found myself in a position where I could not get out of bed. And that's really terrifying when you've got two young kids and a husband who's going, what's going on with you? And I used all the tools in my kit, in my nutritional therapy kit, to get myself back up and running. And I got myself back up and running to a point that I could function during the day, but if anything stressful had happened, I couldn't cope. If my son had gone to hospital he's allergic to lots of things, if we'd had an allergic reaction and we ended up in hospital, I would get through that event, but then I would come home and I'd spend 2 days in bed and I just could not get out. And I thought, my goodness, I have overhauled my whole life, my lifestyle, my diet. I take all my supplementation, and I was taking huge amounts of supplementation just to be able to digest my food properly. And I thought, and I'm still at a point where I can't cope. And I thought, this is as good as my life gets. And lo and behold, I had a beautiful friend step in and say to me, have you heard of oxidative stress? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I learned about that at uni. And you do the exam and it's over and done with and no one mentions it ever again, you know. So once I finally had the time to look at the research, I said to her, oh my goodness, why are we not told about this? Why are we not all educated about this? And she said, I know, right? So I immediately dove headfirst into the research and sharing with people, and recovered my own health and my family's health with putting the cherry on top, which was the cellular activators. And I find that when I've introduced them into clinic, because you don't end up with a disease or a condition overnight, it's not immediate. There's a progression of dysfunction that's happening before you end up with that diagnosis or a condition. I like to catch my clients in that gray zone where there's dysfunction happening, so we can turn that back around. And I used to do that with mass doses of nutrients. So I can relate to Dr. Shaun when she was talking about taking 30 tablets a day. That was me as well. And I used to do that for my clients as well. We'd have support for stomach acid. We'd have support for the pancreas. We'd have support for small intestine, so they would be taking a whole host of things. And we were getting great results because we were just flooding the body and hoping to God that it was all going to be absorbed and utilized the way we wanted it to be to recover their health. And when I started introducing the cellular activators, it suddenly clicked for me that if I can turn these pathways on inside the body and get every single cell to function optimally, I don't have to provide as much support for the stomach to produce stomach acid. I don't have to provide as much support for the pancreas to produce digestive enzymes, because we're helping every single cell with the activators to function as it was meant to function. So what I find in clinic is that while I still use targeted supplementation, I don't need to use as much to get a desired result. And clients get faster results with the activators included into their regime. And also they get better nutrient absorption, and also better digestive processes are happening. So they're getting more out of their food as well. And we generally tend to need less supplementation because of that reason as well. So the cellular activators have not only impacted my life hugely, because now I haven't had a down day since beginning of 2019 when I started on the activators. And I notice every day in clinic with clients that they're achieving results in a much shorter time frame than what I would have expected without having introduced the cellular activators. So I've definitely seen great success with them in clinic and experienced it for myself.
That's fantastic, Belinda. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I've just seen a question pop up in the chat there, just asking if you've noticed any difference with your son's allergies since activation.
Well, while we can't claim to diagnose, cure, prevent, mitigate, or treat any diseases, I have noticed that the severity of his reactions is less, and he does have less of them. But we're also working, obviously, with gut health and his diet to refine everything down as well. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that is brilliant.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love this story. I think it's just so relatable. I could see in the comments like, oh my gosh, that's me, that's me, that's me. So thank you.
There's so many people out there who are so tired and they don't know how they're going to get through the next day.
Exactly. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, now I'd like to switch back gears and bring Dr. Shaun back and ask her a couple of final questions. Dr. Shaun, in your experience, what have you seen to be, the key benefits of the LifeVantage activators? I know you've touched on them a bit before, but maybe just, the key things that you've seen in reducing oxidative stress.
Well, thank you for asking that. And I was listening to Belinda's story, and it sounds very much like me and why I went to see my doctor. And in fact, that is the most common reason people to go to see their doctor, at least in the Western Hemisphere, United States, is because they're tired. They have no energy, and that can have so many upstream causes, of course. But again, all of those are related to oxidative stress. So when you address the underlying cause of malfunction, things just start to repair themselves. And so from myself, just my own personal story, I was taking almost 30 pills. And I started taking the 5 herbal blend of, with our flagship product that was the only thing that was available at the time. And I knew instinctively that not dealing with the upstream issue of inflammation and free radical damage, I did not need to supplement with things that I was taking for inflammation or free radical damage or antioxidants. So I literally ran out of antioxidants. I ran out of things I was taking, like turmeric, which is all natural and wonderful. But I knew, the difference between the blend, which is 1,800 times more effective and doing what it's supposed to do than the individual ingredients. So I ran out of all that. And I did not expect to feel anything because I'd been taking, almost 30 of the best supplements and I didn't feel anything. So I didn't expect to feel anything. But in six weeks-ish, initially there was a little bit of transition where I felt like my body was taking out the trash. I kind of instinctively felt that this was a detox, and I just kind of got through that. And after a while, I was sleeping better. I was in a better mood. I was just more calm. Like, things would happen where normally I'd be thinking, okay, the old me in this particular situation would be going, oh, and I'm like, chill, and so that was great. That was surprising. My kids noticed. They like the post-Protandim mom better than the pre-Protandim mom. Just, it really, personally, I felt a better sense of well-being. And I know that's really vague and hard to describe, but in the 8 years since I've been sharing this with my friends and family, that I've heard that over and over again. They say, I just feel a sense of well-being. I feel good. I feel energized. I feel, better able to face the day. And those are things, they're kind of intangible, but so important for quality of life. And just we've seen all kinds of things, and I love that it can go from a toe that's unsightly to now being able to wear sandals for the first time, to hair that's maybe not as shiny and thick as you'd like it, and now and skin that's softer. I mean, it's just because cellular health reflects in many ways, and we're all just basically a bunch of cells. So when you have a bunch of cells that are unhealthy, you're going to have issues with your toe and your hair and your fingers and whatnot. And when you have cells that are healthy, fingers, bend more and hair shines or whatever. It's just, so I don't want to get into, anything that's we're not allowed to say, because we're not a pharmaceutical company. We're not a drug company. We are, natural, for lack of a better term, we're a supplement company, but what we are not supplementing, we're activating. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely important to note, hey, that the stress in our bodies and in our cells shows in different ways in different people. And so reducing that stress, everyone may have slightly different results. Okay, so we're on to the last question. In closing, if there's, what would you say to someone who's, sitting on the fence, has a little bit of info, not sure if they want to try it? What would you say to them about these activators? Like, should they?
Yeah. Well, I encourage people to go back to when they were 18 or 20 and kind of take a mini survey of the things that they were dealing with back then. Were they waking up at 2 a.m., unable to fall back asleep till 4 a.m.? Were they losing their keys? Obviously when you're 18, you're probably driving, but when you're 16, maybe not, depending on where you live. Were you, feeling unable to concentrate, or were you kind of really as they say, tickety boo, I think is a Canadian expression, but fired on all cylinders. You've got to look at where you are now versus where you were then. And really the only thing that's different is the accumulation of damage from being exposed to the environment, which is essentially free radical damage, which is oxidative stress. So if you just kind of take an honest assessment of where you are at age 35 or 45 or 50 versus where you were when you were kind of working really well as a human being, and you think you've tried everything, try reducing oxidative stress and see if maybe you can reclaim some of that old function.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I have absolutely loved all the information here today, and I know that our audience has found it very, very valuable. So yeah, that's it from us today. I just want to thank Dr. Shaun, Belinda, and everyone for your time today. If you would like to, give these products a go, get in touch with the person that invited you onto this call, and they'll be able to help get you started. Or they'll be able to send you further research or information if that's what you're after. All right, thanks everyone so much, and have a fantastic day.
Bye.
Bye.